Hi, this is Karissa Cross,
Janice Lee.
Jeannie Paik.
and we're here to tell you about the influenza virus.
And now let's take a closer look at it. What is influenza? According to WHO, influenza is a viral infection that affects mainly the nose, throat, bronchi, and occasionally lungs. Infection usually lasts for about a week and is characterized by sudden onset of high fever, aching muscles, headache, and severe malaise, non-productive cough, sore throat, and rhinitis. There are three types of influenzas: influenza type A, B, and C. Influenza A viruses infect a wide variety of mammals, including man, horses, pigs, ferrets, and birds, the main human pathogen associated with epidemics and pandemics. There are 15 hemagglutinin serotypes and 9 neuraminidase serotypes. Pigs and birds are believed to be particularly important reservoirs, generating pools of genetically and antigenetically diverse viruses which gets transferred back to the human population via close contact between humans and animals. Some examples are Spanish flu, Asian flu, swine flu, and Hong Kong flu. Influenza B viruses infect mammals, specifically humans, and only cause disease in humans, but generally not as severe as type A. Unlike influenza A viruses, influenza B viruses do not have distinguishable serotypes. Influenza C viruses also infect mammals only, but rarely cause diseases. They are genetically and morphologically distinct from A and B types. Structure and properties. A family of RNA virus, orthomyxovirus. They are highly pleomorphic, mostly spherical and ovoid, 80 to 120 nanometers in diameter, but their variability depends, including long filamentous particles, up to 2,000 nanometers long by 80 to 120 nanometers in diameter. Different strains of virus vary in their tendency to form filaments. This property maps to the matrix protein. Core diameter is 9 nanometers, and the outer surface of the particle consists of a lipid envelope from which project prominent glycoprotein spikes. The inner side of the envelope is lined by the matrix protein. The hosts of these influenza viruses are vertebrates. Replication. The influenza virus has a negative sense RNA genome. In order to replicate, this means that the virus must first produce positive sense mRNA in order to produce necessary enzymes. Once the enzymes are translated, replication can take place. Positive sense cRNA is then made from the original negative sense RNA using the enzymes. Negative sense RNA progeny are then made from the positive sense cRNA. The final viral progeny eventually bud from the host cell, ready to infect the other cells.
As seen earlier, influenza is caused from 3 different viruses, A, B, and C. Combined, they are responsible for 306 human viral strands. Wild birds are the natural host for all subtypes of influenza A. Influenza A can be classified by the 2 main surface glycoproteins, hemagglutinin and neuraminidase. So how does this happen? Influenza viruses are constantly evolving in 2 ways, antigenic drift and antigenic shift. The most common, antigenic shift, is where 2 or more viruses combine to form a new subtype. Antigenic drift happens only occasionally and involves small gradual changes that occur to the virus via point mutations. These changes can cause our body to be unable to recognize the new strain and not have resistance via the antibodies we already have. Variant viruses are viruses that can be transferred sporadically from their host species to a different species. Most common types come from pigs and birds. Swine flu can be transmitted from pigs to people in the same way that the flu is transferred from human to human, such as sneezing, coughing, and close contact. Swine flu is typically a respiratory disease of pigs caused by type A influenza. It doesn't usually transfer to humans, but cases have occurred. It is common for antigenic shift to occur inside of pigs because they are susceptible to avian, human, and swine influenza viruses. Symptoms include coughing, sore throat, vomiting, lethargy, and diarrhea. Avian flu, as mentioned earlier, is a type of influenza A that occurs in wild birds naturally. It is usually found in their intestines and respiratory tracts and usually does not cause them illness. A problem arises when domesticated birds are exposed. Wild birds can shed the virus in their saliva, nasal secretions, and feces. Susceptible domestic birds come in contact with these and become infected. Most human infections occur following close contact with the infected birds. Once a human is infected, it does not usually spread from human-to-human interactions. Most common strain and most lethal that infects humans is the H5N1 virus. Symptoms include respiratory illness, pneumonia, multi-organ disease, nausea, vomiting, and neurological change. Both avian flu and swine flu are dangerous in different ways. Avian flu is more harmful to humans but less common, while swine flu is more common and less fatal. Also, swine flu can be passed from human to human, while avian flu does not.
(1918 to 1919). One of the most deadly flu pandemic occurred during 1918 to 1919. This flu pandemic is known as the Spanish flu. People who were infected with this virus felt fine in the morning but died by nightfall. Approximately 20 to 40% of worldwide became sick from this flu, and approximately 50 million people died from this virus. About 675,000 people died in USA alone. The death rate was so high because people who didn't die from this virus often died from bacterial infection due to lowered immunity. Most people who became sick and died were between 20 to 50 years old, and people still don't know why this is so. 1957 to 1958. This new flu virus that came about in 1957 originated in the Far East. This virus was named the Asian flu. Immunity to this strain was rare in people younger than 65 in the East, so a pandemic was predicted. However, the elderly had the highest rates of death in the United States. The strain was not as devastating as the Spanish flu, but no one knows why this was the case. 1968 to 1969. This new flu virus originated in Hong Kong. Again, the elderly had the highest rates of death. This virus strain was not as deadly as the Spanish flu because it was similar to 1957 strain. So more people had some immunity against this Hong Kong flu virus. Also, compared to previous times, the medical care, including creating vaccines, became more effective. 2009 to 2010. This strain of virus was known as H1N1, the swine flu. 74 countries were affected by this strain of virus. The CDC estimates about 8,870 to 18,300 related deaths. Most of the reported cases said that infected people were mostly young people who had less immunity than the older generation.
So what can you do to protect the pack? The Student Health Center offers vaccines each year. If you take the vaccine, then you can stay healthy and stay in class. So call the health center to find out when the flu vaccine is given.